Hello everybody. Welcome to townhall.com. I'm Kira Davis, editor-at-large for RedState.com, part of the Town Hall family. So excited to be coming to you live from CPAC today, and it has been an amazing event so far. There's a buzz in the air, even though there's a lot of crazy stuff going on around the world. There's still a real sense of hope and excitement here, and I think part of the excitement is that conservatives are recognizing that if we're going to go in and win the hearts and minds of the American people, we need to really shore up our tent and expand our notions of what it means to be a conservative. This is Black History Month. CPAC is held during February every year, and I thought this year, why don't we take some time to actually celebrate some of our Black history, because Black history, as you know, is American history, and also Black history has very intimate connections to the Republican Party and to conservatism in general. So it is my pleasure to welcome to speak with me today two of my favorite colleagues. I have Miss Jennifer Oliver O'Connell here, one of our writers at RedState, and another contributor at RedState, Jeff Charles. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
Happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month.
Is that how you do the greeting in Black History Month?
That's the official Black History
Is
Month
it?
Yes,
greeting.
exactly.
I didn't know that. All
yeah,
right.
I think there was a secret handshake, but I didn't get that class.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I'm so glad you guys could join me. And one of the reasons that you guys are here is that when I started my job at RedState, one of the things I said is I want to bring on more Black writers. Not because I want to be judging people by race, but because I want perspective. And we need more perspective. Jennifer, with Black History Month, I feel like a lot of conservatives are like almost afraid to like celebrate it or uplift it. And I'm not sure exactly why. I have my own opinions, but why do you think that there's been a hesitancy on our side to celebrate it, and why do you think it's important for us to be celebrating it?
To the first point, I think it's twofold. I think there are conservatives who think any acknowledgement of Black history is aligning with the left and CRT and their agenda, and so they don't want any part of it. You know, they think of it as a Trojan horse to try to get liberalism and leftism into the conservative fold. And the other part of that is they're just afraid. They're afraid that someone's going to call them a racist or cultural appropriation. You know, when again, it's about celebrating. It's not about appropriation, as well as acknowledging the thread that exists in conservatism that was brought to conservatism by Black people. And that needs to happen if they can get over their fear and get over, and also learn how to form a constructive argument against the whole, this is just leftism.
Yeah.
You know, if they can learn to do that, then I think there will be a much greater acceptance, as well as different faces, allowing different faces, different voices, not the same old talking points and the same old conservative ink people.
Well, let's talk about that, because I do get a lot of criticism for wanting to sometimes focus on Black issues or focus on, Black personalities like yourselves, but again, I don't feel like it is, I'm trying to racially divide. What I'm trying to add is a different perspective. And Jeff, how do you feel, like, what is your view on the perspective that we have as Black conservatives and how that relates to Black history, and how maybe we on the right should be embracing Black history more? Because it's not just an issue of, hey, Harriet Tubman and we all love her. There is a whole perspective that is different from other Americans, which is fine, I think.
Yeah. And what I've discovered, over the past few years, especially talking to a lot of conservatives, a lot of them really don't understand how deep the history goes and how deep the history has influenced the formation of the Black community, but also even the broader the United States of America. Like you said, we know Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King Jr. We know all the basics, and there's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's far more to it. Our history is very much deeply ingrained even in the formation of America, and our really our history is a part of making sure that our country lived up to the values upon which it was founded.
Yes.
So as conservatives, we should be embracing this history. I think a lot of times conservatives get too afraid of being seen as playing identity politics.
Yes.
Yeah, which they shouldn't, because we're already playing them anyway. That's a whole other story. But I understand why. I mean, and they see how, like Jen said, they see how the left has exploited this stuff and really made it ugly. They've turned Black history into something that is divisive. I mean, even something as simple as, like, say, the Black National Anthem, the big controversy over that. If anybody should have been for the anthem, it should have been conservatives, because it was written for Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican president. But a lot of this stuff people don't know, and they see how the left uses it, so it turns them off. So I think they're too afraid of doing what the left is doing. And a lot of the process is just explaining, look, if you talk about Black history, if you embrace and love Black history, you're not going to turn into Sean King. You're not going to turn into Al Sharpton. I've done it many times. I don't have a perm. You know, I'm fine.
We should get you one though.
Yeah.
That's on my bucket list.
Get Jeff a perm. Yes, definitely. But yeah, we don't have to do it the way the left does it. We can do it the way we do it, in a way that's healthy and beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I love that idea, because this is our history. So a lot of people don't realize, Black History Month is the Republican month, basically. It was began by a Republican, and I think we need to just piggybacking off what Jeff said, I think we need to take this back from the left. In fact, we have ceded way too much cultural territory to the left, and this counts as cultural territory. And it is cultural territory that we can be proud of on the right, but somehow we're almost like we have battered wife syndrome, like we're absorbing these criticisms from the left, and we shouldn't, because we don't deserve it, and B, the left is lying. They're lying. Just the way that somebody looks at you and it tells you when you're a kid, oh, you're ugly, or you can't. They're lying to you, and it's the same with the left. They've been lying to us, but we have a perspective that is not only rooted in the richness of the American struggle, but it's also rooted in the richness of conservatism. And you said something, Jeff, that really reminded me of something. The story of America is that we've been working to live up to our values. And to me, that is the story of Black America, and I believe that is the story that gets to be told during Black History Month. Not a story of oppression, even though that exists, but a story of living up to the standards that we all know and love as America. And that is kind of our constant journey as Americans, isn't it, Jennifer?
Yeah, every American, that is the thing. We must live up to our American ideals. I mean, Kennedy talked about that. Every great president has talked about that. So we're not out of line when we talk about the blacks and the black historians who also called for that. Frederick Douglass in his 4th of July speech, this is not my 4th of July. The left has snatched that to make it look like, he's anti-4th of July and he wants Juneteenth. It's like, no, what he was saying is, this is what we're supposed to be living up to. And as long as slavery exists, we're not living up to it. So therefore, when slavery is abolished, then I will be able to fully embrace 4th of July, because then we will be fully into it. But until slavery is abolished, we will never be fully into it. That's what he was saying. But we've allowed the left to twist that, as opposed to actually read the full text and tell exactly what Douglass was speaking to. Same thing with Martin Luther King and his, they love the, content of character, color of skin part of the I Have a Dream speech, but they forget the very first part, what he begins with saying, we have the right to what is enshrined in the Bill of Rights, and we have gotten a check that says insufficient funds. We just want to get our funds.
Yes.
That's exactly what King was saying. So he was talking about, again, the American ideals, the founding, and that we should not be disenfranchised because we are Americans. And that is the full embrace of America.
Yeah.
And it's in its, most deep point, and why the right refuses to embrace that and champion that is just
I think you nailed it, though. I do think that there are a lot of people who feel accused, and they don't and that's unfair.
Yeah.
But we have ceded this territory to the left, and I want to remind people that we don't have to do that. This is our
Big time.
we are the ones who love America. And guess what? You know, the story of America includes this incredible journey of Black America. And so we should feel free to embrace that on every level. One thing that I love about Black History Month, or I've come to love about Black History Month, is that there are stories that really embody the true American spirit. We talk a lot about the founding fathers and what they had to go through and the terrible decisions that they had to make in order to bring us to where we are today, which of course is a country that we all love. And I see those echoes in stories that maybe we haven't been telling commonly on Black History Month. For instance, on RedState, we're running a series on Black History Month, just highlighting different stories that people haven't maybe seen. Go to RedState.com, and Jennifer's done Billie Holiday, and I did a story on the Fisk Jubilee Singers, who were the a cappella choir from Fisk University, which is an HBCU established after slavery for former slaves to be educated. They were established in 1869, I think, but by 71 they were running out of money. And so they didn't know what to do. So the choir director said, well, I've got these great singers. I'm going to organize a choir. I'm going to send them on tour. We're going to raise money for the school. And they did. And this choir is credited, most of the choir members are former slaves. And the choir is credited with introducing America to Negro spirituals, but not just Negro spirituals, but Black spirituality, which people had not been introduced to. And what I love about that story, Jeff, is that it is a story really about, to me, it is the most American story, because it is a story about a group of people who said, oh, we're not going to go to the government to see, we're about to close down. They were like, well, what can we do for ourselves? We have voices, we have sponsors, we have choir robes, and we can travel. And that's what they did. I mean, if that doesn't embody the American spirit of fighting for what you believe in and fighting, and work ethic and getting the job done.
And capitalism.
Yes. I don't know what it is. I love that story. To me, that reflects the spirit of the founding fathers.
Yes.
It does. I mean, and if you look through Black history, you'll see a lot of that. I mean, I was going to talk about just a little bit about Black Wall Street. Now, we always talk about the Tolson Massacre, right? But we forgot what the Tolson Massacre was done to. It was a Black Wall Street. Using capitalism, Black people in segregated Jim Crow America were able to build a thriving community. And by the way, there wasn't just one Black Wall Street. There were multiple all across the country. And we don't know about this stuff because it's not really taught. But my problem with the way that a lot of people approach Black history, especially the left, is they always want to talk about how we were getting beat down, how we're getting crushed, how the boot was on our neck. Yes, all of that happened. And you know what? We overcame it anyway. Yes. We always forget that last part. We don't tell the rest of the story.
That's right.
We also why would we focus just on the oppression when we can see where we were thriving?
Yeah.
Even after the Tulsa Massacre, they rebuilt Black Wall Street. And it was thriving. And I'm like, why isn't this happening? It is happening today in certain places, but why do we forget these things? I think the reason that they want us to forget it is because they don't want for people to realize that Black people can overcome without the assistance of the government. Because if anything, the government was against us back then, and yet Black Wall Street still happened.
The government sanctioned all that. Yeah,
they loved it. Yeah. So, I mean, if we can overcome slavery, Jim Crow, and still have thriving communities, then why do we need the government now? Why should we continue to advocate for a bigger government while still calling it a white supremacist government? When we realize this, then we can realize where we came from, we can realize the stock that we're made of, and we can translate that into today. But that's the part of Black history that I love, because I love the success stories, because there are tons of them that I don't even know about yet. There are tons of them.
Oh, I love that, Jennifer. I mean, honestly, that is a great thing. I always think about that too. Like, there's no reason for us to be moping around and purely negative all the time, because the story of Black America is a story of overcoming over and over and over again, and that is literally the American experience. I love what Jeff just said about there being so many positive stories, and I mean, forget about what the right is supposed to do. Just us, our community in general, the Black community in general, like we need to be focusing on all of those victories because
most definitely.
we have so much to be proud of, and that falls in line with what the conservative message is, and by extension the Republican message, which is that the government is not your friend. You are your friend. Your community is your friend.
Yes.
Your circle of trust is your friend. Your neighbors and your countrymen are your friends. And when we work together, we can avail ourselves of all of the opportunities that our Constitution has, even if we have to fight through some BS to get there. But there's a victorious story in our history.
Most definitely, and not just victory, but empowerment.
I love that.
To Jeff's point, it's always about beat down, beat down, beat down. You don't have the power. You need the government to give you power. When it's like, no, we don't need the government to give us power.
Yeah.
We are a powerful people in and of our own right, economically. Socially, we can do awesome things in our community, have done awesome things for our community, you know that. And also, in terms of the Second Amendment, that we can empower ourselves that way. Maj Touré in Black Guns Matter tries to teach that. There's another fellow in Detroit who specifically focuses in on women and teaches them how to protect themselves and empower themselves with gun rights. And one of the characters that the left has hijacked, sadly, and we need to take her back, is Ida B. Wells. Not only is she a powerful conservative voice and a writer, but she advocated for gun rights. She said every black should have a Winchester rifle in their home.
Amen. I still agree with that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Frederick Douglass too.
Yeah, Frederick Douglass as well. They were about, I'm an intellectual, I'm a smart person. I'm going to do what I can to be safe, but I'm also going to carry a gun because I know you will come and attack me.
Right.
And you're not going to bother me. I love the story in Condoleezza Rice's book. She talks about her father, and this was, again, Condoleezza Rice grew up in Jim Crow South, KKK, but her father would literally sit on his porch with his rifle when the KKK was going around stirring up mess, and they did not bother her father because he had his rifle. So we need to learn in the ways that we can be empowered. We need to take that empowerment, and that includes gun rights. That's the American way. It's the American ideal. Yes.
Well, let me piggyback off of that. Let me jump off of that, because what do you think that a larger America has to? And let's keep this on the right for a moment, since we're at CPAC.
Right.
Let's keep this on the. What do you think right-wing America, just generally speaking, of all races, not just us as Black people, has to gain from really exploring deeper Black History Month and celebrating it and really making it like a big celebration, kind of the way that the left does, taking it back culturally? What do white conservatives have to gain from that? Jeff?
White conservatives? Well, white conservatives have a lot to gain from this. Because I'm talking to you, white conservatives. You have you have a benefit here too, because I know you're tired of being called racist. I'm tired of you being called racist for no good reason. The reason why the left has been able to brand the right as racist is because we have withdrawn from the conversation. We have chosen not to participate, and the left has dominated the narrative. We allow them to do it. We can't just blame the left. We got to take some of this responsibility ourselves. We got to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, right? And get in the conversation. You don't have to be Al Sharpton to talk about race or Black history or what have you. If anything, we can be the adults in the room. We already know the left doesn't care about racism. We know that they don't care about the history, they don't care about any of it. To them, this stuff is a weapon. It's not something to be solved. We as conservatives can be the adults in the room. We don't have to pretend that none of this stuff happened. Engage in the conversation. Talk about Black history. Celebrate Black history. Even other races, even if it's Hispanic history, celebrate that too. We can be engaged in this conversation without being race baiters. So I think when we realize that, then that weapon goes away. It would be much harder for the left to use that weapon against us.
That's good.
When we're actually celebrating it. Oh, you're going to call me racist? What do you mean? I was just celebrating Hispanic Latino Heritage Month or whatever it is. I mean, there are. It's got to be more than just I've got Black friends. No, let's celebrate who we are as America, all of us.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's a larger story there that's our story that we can claim.
Definitely. And as I said earlier, constructing a powerful argument and a valid argument to people who want to counter you on that, who want to call you racist, who want to say, or you're just doing this, you're doing that. Another term that's bandied about and hackneyed is white savior. I'm so sick of hearing that term because the left embodies it and pretends it doesn't. The right is afraid of it, but in it being in fear of it, they perpetuate it.
Yeah.
So I say always come from the point of how can I be educated? How can I learn more? How they love the left loves the term ally. So how can you be an ally to our cause or to something that you love and enjoy and celebrate in Black history and being unashamed of that. Seriously, part of it is again that shame that the left wants you to feel and that the right maybe secretly feels about, we were the cause of slavery and that things would be perfect if we were in colorblind society. It's like, no. Aja Smith, who is running for 39th District in California, she said so perfectly, she's like, do you look at a bird and think, oh, isn't that a wonderful, bird? No, you're just like, oh, that's a beautiful blue jay. You don't want to wipe out the blue jay. You don't want to wipe out the robin song. That is what makes those birds distinctive. It's the same thing with celebrating who we are as Black people. We are distinctive. We have contributed much to the American landscape, and that should be, looked in awe like birds are, appreciated and celebrated.
One thing that I always say that I like to remind people of is that the struggle of Black Americans isn't to be included in the Constitution. It was to have our constitutional rights restored. Yes. We've always been included in the Constitution. I never buy that argument that we weren't even being thought of when they drafted the Constitution. First of all, that's a lie, because John Adams fought like hell to include the abolition of slavery. In fact, it almost ended his marriage because his wife Abigail was so adamant that this was the cause of a lifetime. But he was one man and he couldn't get it done, but they structured the Constitution so that we would have the ability to go back and correct our mistakes. And we've never been without constitutional right, without the umbrella of the Constitution. We've just been denied that umbrella. Yes. So we're talking about restoration of rights, not bestowing of rights. And I think that is a right-wing message.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Just giving us the avenue, giving us the means to be able to fully be American. That's what eliminating slavery was about. That's what the 13th and 14th Amendment were about, is giving us back all the full rights of citizenry, from having a name to citizenship rights to birth certificates to the whole 9 yards, the ability to own property and land. All of that people who are not born underneath that umbrella don't think about. We don't want to think about it either. And the way things are going, the way the government is trying to even rob those rights from people who are not of color, should give us pause.
Yeah.
And give us an understanding of what the Black experience has been.
Let's talk about that for a second. Jeff, let's talk about the lessons of history. One of the reasons that you have any kind of history, like next month is Women's History Month, and I have a lot of history as a woman, so I think I'm going to be great with 2 months in a row. I've been Black my whole life, been a woman my whole life. I am nailing this.
I'm going to identify as a woman next month, though, so
and nobody can stop you.
Yeah, they can't.
In fact, I think it's against
the American flag.
Yep, it's for me too. Women's history is for me too.
We're going to put that on a t-shirt.
There you go.
For me too. Male feminists right here. The ladies are going to be trailing right behind you at CPAC. Anyway, I think that there is lessons in history. We always talk about how we need to learn about history. This is a big movement right now that's happening in our school battles, right? How somehow the left has infiltrated schools, and now we don't teach a lot of American history anymore.
Right.
And now we've raised generations of ignorant people who don't know what their constitutional rights are, don't know the value of the Bill of Rights or the value of the strength of America being a superpower. Jeff, what lessons do you think that specifically Black history has to teach us about this moment in time today?
Oh man, I mean, there's so much. I mean, even if we go back to the Second Amendment, I mean, and I think with a lot of different things, or even Second Amendment, let's say even the issue of police brutality. You know, we always talk about police brutality. There's a huge history of it. We're talking about it now, but I mean, it's been a history throughout this whole country.
Of course, yeah.
Especially, you know, in the 60s. And what I would say with a lot of this stuff, and you'll hear a lot of us say it, but when it happens to us, it's not going to stop with us. It's going to go to you now. So you look at what happened under COVID, right? You see how people are being treated, and it doesn't matter what color you are. If you wanted to take your kid out to the park, you might get tackled by a police officer. Look at what's happening up to our neighbors to the north, Canada. You see what's happening to them. So tyranny, I mean, tyranny is tyranny, regardless of who it's being aimed at. It may be aimed at one group at one time, but it's not going to stop there. Tyranny never stops. It's going to expand. It's going to be growing more powerful. And if anything, that's yet another way that the Black community or the Black history has reminded this country of who it's supposed to be, because this country is not supposed to be tyrannical. So that's why we always have served as kind of the conscience of the nation. You are not living up to your values. I think that still rings true today. So I think that's one lesson of many that we can take from Black history. Tyranny is going to come for everybody, no matter who it's
right. Yeah, it's a cancer.
Yeah.
It'll spread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. What about you, Jennifer?
I forget who wrote it or who said it, but you know that poem where they said, you know, they came for this person,
right.
and I didn't say anything. They came for the poets, and I didn't say anything, and then they came for me. It doesn't stop. I totally agree with Jeff. When you start and when you nip it out in the very smallest part of it, that's when it's easy to do. The more you let it grow, the harder it is to nip in the bud. Mm-hmm. I can say this coming from a state of California where when we have the opportunity to root out corruption and get rid of people who were not in our best interest, we didn't. And so now we have a big miasmic problem on our hands. And so
that has spread to the rest of the United States.
That has spread to the rest of the nation. Mm-hmm. And we need to learn to recognize, you know, racism, corruption, wherever you can find it, and root it out. And again, partner. You know, the goal and the power of the abolitionist movement was the partnership of everybody. The goal and the power of the civil rights movement was the partnership of everybody. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just, you know,
that's right.
Do your thing and we'll fight. It was the partnership of everybody fighting that one goal of freeing the slaves, civil rights, giving us full enfranchisement into the American experience. And we're still fighting the same battles now, whether it's school choice, whether it's gun rights, we are fighting these same battles.
Well, we see what has happened. Jeff mentioned COVID, and we've seen like the tyranny that has descended upon all of us because of COVID. And I think of just sort of circling back to what you said about Black Wall Street, Jeff, and capitalism. Well, that was a case where two economies were forming, right? You had the white economy, and then you had Black people going, well, if you're not going to let us in, we'll just do it ourselves. Well, this is what we're doing in COVID times right now. This is actually an echo of that, where we're having people like the battle with Joe Rogan, the battle for free speech. We're fighting it every day here at RedState and Town Hall, where we're fighting to stay alive. We're setting up two tiers of society, right? Vaccinated versus unvaccinated, or even left wing versus right wing. So we're setting up these two uneven economies, and every time we on the right split off and go, all right, fine. If y'all want to be crazy like that, we'll go make our own locals. We'll go make Rumble.
And then they get mad at that.
And then they get all like, oh man, what are they doing? Like, we get Potato Head on CNN. Like,
build your own social media.
Oh, they're
don't build your own social media.
And what are they trying to do? They're trying to do what we saw the racists do in the Tulsa massacres, which is, well, we just have to come destroy it. That's not an accident, everybody. It's not an accident that somebody thought that was a good idea once, and now they think it's a good idea again.
Sure.
So we don't need to be afraid of that history. We should be, as conservatives, the ones sounding that alarm, going, hey, here was a time when capitalism was thriving and the tyrannical authoritarian left wing came in and said, oh no, we don't want you to have your own thing. We're going to destroy it rather than just let it grow. We are here again, people, only now it's not just black people, it's everybody. So to me, that's a lesson that we can learn.
Big time.
And that everyone needs to talk about. Do you guys have any favorite stories maybe that people might not know about? I talked about the Fisk Jubilee Singers, and I really did love that story because to me it is a story of self-reliance. I mean, we love that message on the right. I mean, I do too. I am a big on just like nose to the grind, digging in, working hard, and I believe that your greatest strength is your community.
Yes.
Not just like your racial community, but the people around you. I know my neighborhood during COVID, for me, was like a soft place to land. Like I was very grateful for my neighbors during COVID. So the people around you are your greatest strength, and that's what the Fisk Jubilee Singers meant to me. Can you guys think of a story that's not Harriet Tubman or Frederick Douglass that makes you feel proud as an American, and it really tells an American story? There are so many like that, like Madam C.J. Walker, right?
Yes.
Who was the first black woman to become a millionaire, and she made hair products. And we don't talk about her a lot, but we do talk about money a lot. You know? We like money. Well, here is this woman, forget black woman, right? Woman,
yes.
Became a millionaire selling hair products. Why? Because she couldn't find black hair products that would go in black hair. And instead of if she was alive today, what she would be doing is starting a social media campaign. I'm so oppressed. I don't have some black hair products.
And we need to boycott these other
Yeah, exactly.
and destroy them.
Yeah.
Because they are catering to me.
Yeah, don't lift up black women, bring white women down.
Yes.
That is left-wing ideology in a nutshell.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, C.J. Walker is beautiful because not only that, she created a black hair care, but she created it in such a way where it was healthy for black people. You know, she was the first environmentalist. Things that were less toxic, things that helped the black hair grow and not destroyed the black hair just because you wanted to look pretty.
Right.
So she came up with this entire concept that was forward thinking. And, you know, that's a powerful story. One of my favorites, and I'm going to write about it on RedState.com as we close out Black History Month, is Melvin B. Tolson and the Great Debaters. There was an awesome movie with Denzel Washington.
You
know, and it's a great dramatization of it, but it didn't tell the whole truth.
Oh.
They won against University of California, Southern California, actually. A black debate team. Melvin Tolson was an instructor at Marshall University in Texas, an HBCU, and he decided we need to come up with a debate team. We need to elevate ourselves in terms of being able to form an argument. And so he created this debate team. He sent them all around the South to debate other black teams. And then he decided, you know what, we need to be up against the best in the nation, not just the best other black teams. And so University of Southern California was the best in the nation. And they went up against them, they accepted the challenge, and Marshall University's team won. But it just wasn't that one win. The movie celebrates that one big win. They had a 10-year running streak of being the best. 10 years of being the best debate team in America. That's a powerful statement, and the people that came out of there, civil rights leaders like Farmer, the lawyer character, you know, who went on to fight for civil rights. People were empowered by being on that team, and they launched out and did other powerful things. Again, those are the, talk about triumphs. Those are the triumphs we should be celebrating. Yeah. Those are the stories people should be learning about.
Yes.
Yeah, they're exciting. And again, they're not, we're talking in terms of Black History Month, but my point is that that's not Black history, that's American history.
Yes.
That's right.
So the way we all talk about Jackie Robinson, right, that's a proud moment for all of us.
Yes.
Americans of all races talk about Jackie Robinson in high esteem. Because we recognize that as a national moment. That's what that's all Black history is. I think for now Black history, it serves a purpose, but it would be wonderful one day if we didn't need it. Because
that's what I would like too.
Because it's so embedded in the fabric of historical telling.
Yeah, and that is a story that is like, that's an American story. Yeah. Well, what about you, Jeff? Do you have any?
When we're talking, this was in World War II, and I don't remember all of the details. It's been a while since I've looked into this, but there was in World War II when we were fighting in Europe and in Japan, there was a company of Black women that they formed. Now, they weren't fighting, but they formed this company to help get the mail out to all the soldiers, which doesn't sound that important, but if you think about how morale is when it comes to war, our soldiers need to know that there are people back home who care about them. And so they brought these Black women on. I couldn't remember how this whole thing materialized, but this group there was such a backlog that they expected that it was going to take them like a year or two to get it all out to everybody. They did it within a couple months. Just Black women, no Black men, just Black women. And I think a couple of them are still living today, actually. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, to me, those are the stories that we forget or we don't even know about, because I just found out about this like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And we don't teach this, and it goes back to what you were saying about Black history being American history. I understand when people say we don't need a Black History Month because it's American history, but the thing is, this stuff isn't really taught.
You're right.
That's the only reason why I'm for having a Black History Month.
Same here.
I would like to get to this. I would like to get to the point to where enough of this stuff is taught that we don't need a month.
Exactly.
And
I agree.
even same thing with Latino heritage. If that more of that was taught, and about how their history is so deeply ingrained in American history, then we wouldn't need it. But right now, it's not being taught. I mean, and that's a big debate right now. And here's an area where conservatives could get in on this.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, don't teach critical race theory, which I get, I'm against that too, we should also be coming and saying, this is what we should be teaching.
Yeah.
Well,
don't leave it the same.
Look at these stories, right? Look at these stories. Look at these people in history. Look at all of the positive things that we have to teach that don't involve Marxism.
Yes.
Yeah. So, all right, Jeff, you
just got
really choked up because Black history is really important.
It's emotional.
Do we have any water?
No, I'm more. I started being more sensitive since I started identifying as a woman, and it's just got me all like messed up.
Well, that's fine. I think I'm going to say if you could. Are you all right? All right. Well, I want to close out this panel, but I think what I want to say is just to wrap things up. What I want to say is that I think the point we came to is that Black history is American history, and I think conservatives are really missing a really great evangelism opportunity. Oh, thank you, Micah.
All right. You're my hero.
Yes.
Talk about a white savior.
Am I on? We're wrapping it up anyway. But what I want to say is we're missing, and this is why I wanted to do this panel today. I think conservatives, we're missing a huge opportunity here. I really do. To seize this back from the left. This isn't Marxist history. And the left is sort of taking this history and turning it into some Marxist monster like Frankenstein.
Right.
And that's not the Black American experience. The Black American experience is the same one as our founding fathers, which is being oppressed, uniting, overcoming, availing ourselves of our constitutional rights, availing ourselves of capitalism, right? Saying, you know what, if you don't want to include us, we'll build it ourselves, and then we'll make you want what we built.
Right.
And also embracing the American experience because we love America. Even James Baldwin, who went to live in Ghana and Africa for a little bit, but he came back because despite his twisted concept of certain things and his experiences in America, he still loved America. And he wanted to change America as you know, as an American, not as some outside force. He wanted to be a part of the fabric, and so let's get rid of some of these things, and let's talk about some of these things. Let's speak truth to power. He wasn't a Marxist. He wasn't trying, even though the FBI was following him, he wasn't trying to fundamentally change America, turn it into he was a Christian. He used to be a preacher. Yeah. He believed in the founding principles. Most of the great civil rights icons, the ones we mentioned, the ones we don't, believed in America and its founding principles and wanted America to live up to that concerning our rights.
And before we go, just to piggyback on that, because Black history has a really rich spiritual history, there's no civil rights movement without God, right? There's no civil rights movement without Christianity.
There's no abolitionist movement without God.
That's right, there's no abolitionist
movement. They were all filled through the church, through a knowledge that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator, with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness.
And when you look at the political spectrum, which side is God welcome on? Left or right?
Right.
There's no reason why we should not. To my mind, we should be embracing it. We should kind of be rubbing it in their faces.
Right.
And that's how I would love to start being bolder and more excited. We want to invite everybody out there to celebrate Black History Month with us at RedState, at Town Hall, and we want to invite you as Americans. We don't want to invite you in a way that is divisive. Not at all. What we want to do is to everything to feel inclusive, because this is the American story. It is rich, it is beautiful, and it is what makes me proud to be an American. So I'm excited to celebrate Black History Month as a Christian, as an American, and as a conservative American, 100%. I want to thank you guys for joining me today to talk about Black History Month. We still haven't figured out the Black History Month handshake, but maybe next year we'll come with something exciting. But right now,
we'll have our meetings in our smoke-filled room, away from prying eyes.
The Black agenda.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to Town Hall for hosting us today. You can join me, Kira Davis, over at RedState.com for more Black History Month stories. Jeff Charles and Jennifer Oliver O'Connell are over there as well. We're proud and happy to represent Town Hall Media and RedState.com. You guys take care, and we're going to get back to CPAC.